Oh, okay, so these ones are tinier heads.
No, serious.
That's what I said. Or even from below, because the rubble is going down further.
Yeah.
You think there's something under it?
That's the rumors, right? Wasn't this one of the cases? Prophesized location for one of the Atlantean Hall of Records. Yeah. We had like 3 or 4 different spots around the world, I think. So. Can you tell me what would you mean by this? Well, Edgar Casey is an American prophet, psychic.
Listed.
No, he died. He made these prophecies in the
30s?
30s, yeah. And and a lot of people made a lot of money based on some of these predictions about the stock market. He has this foundation called the Association for Research and Enlightenment, the Edgar Casey Foundation. And they've actually got in my last video, I got into kind of the history of digging around at Giza. They apparently funded Zahi Hawas's education, and he's enabled them to have like 5 years unrestricted permit at the Giza Plateau in the Great Pyramid at the Sphinx, and they've been trying to dig for
The Hall of Records foundation.
Yep.
Yeah, is that documented or is that?
Oh yeah.
What, did they take something out or?
We don't know. It was a very secretive expedition. They actually made the documentary, but it never got released.
Released by who?
No one released it. They filmed a lot of stuff, and Zahi was in it, and they were like.
When was that?
And it was that expedition was like 96, 97, but they've been digging and drilling under the Sphinx since the late 70s.
Who is
Ever
it?
since Zahi Hawass.
Who is it that's doing it?
Well, it was the ARE, the Association for Research and Enlightenment. It's the Edgar Casey Foundation.
Oh.
So Hugh Lynn Casey, who's the son of Edgar Casey, in his biography, he says that they met Zahi. He was like at that point he was an inspector on the site, and they found him pliable, so they got him a scholarship at the University of Pennsylvania because one of the ARE people was on the Fulbright Scholarship Board, and they paid for his education. And in return for that, he was always tight with them. And then, I mean, there's photos of and Mark Lane is part of that too. So there's photos of Zahi and Mark Lane and Hugh Lynn Casey at the Sphinx. There's pictures of them drilling like in the late 70s, like the young Zahi with big afro and stuff.
Does he acknowledge that?
No, we asked him in 2015. We asked him his relationship with him, and he said, "I've lectured with them a couple of times, but other than that, there's no connection." And there's other people that have said, "Oh yeah, they're at the wherever they have their meetings at there's a beach. It's at the ARE Centre. I forget where it is. But Zahi was known to go there and lecture. But there's pictures of him and Joseph Shaw and Joseph Jehoda, who were also lifelong ARE members. And he gave them a permit for five years unrestricted, doing whatever you want at the Sphinx, the Giza Plateau, and in the Great Pyramid. They did experiments and secret diggings all over the place there. And it's a really interesting long story. You got to dig back through, because there's a couple other people involved in it, like Boris Said, who was a friend of John Anthony West, and he was a filmmaker, and he was trying to film it. And then they had a big falling out with the ARE people, and the film never got released because obviously they were funding it. But he's been on Art Bell a few times. You go back and dig up his old interviews and tell some crazy wild shit that they were doing. And none of them were archaeologists either. Like, there's no archaeology. And their stated goal was always to find the Hall of Records and to establish that the Sphinx and that area is much older than the dynastic Egyptian civilization. And Zahi's enabling that, and Mark Lehner, but on the public front, they're like saying there's nothing to that.
He feels suspicious.
Well, it's like a red herring. It's like the way what they state publicly and outward facing is very different to what they seem to be enabling.
But
privately.
when you see interviews of him and stuff, he feels like he's hiding something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's an elusive character, I think.
Also, the way he unveils things like he's been there before.
Well, yeah, he will delay. I mean, he had a long history kicking out Rudolph Gantenbrink. I mean, he delayed the exploration of a lot of those shafts until he could take personal credit for, designing the fucking robot or whatever. But that's the way he works.
Are you okay with me filming you saying this?
It's fine. It's nothing that hasn't been said before.
Okay.
It's just opinion. Are you going to post it on the internet or what?
No.
Yeah, he's a.
I would ask
character.
you.
I mean, I don't know. He's definitely delayed a lot of research there. And I mean, even with that new little cavity that they found in the Great Pyramid, he's like up front and center trying to take. And you got to remember when the Scan Pyramids results first came out, because they released it without his authority, and he's on record as saying, "Oh, it's bullshit. There's nothing there. They're full of crap. There's no science behind this." And then once it sort of gets verified, he's like, "Oh yeah, so it's brand new chambers been released, discovered and all this stuff." Yeah, so and the same thing happened with, because John Anthony West and Robert Schoch they did some ground penetrating radar and other studies, and they found a big chamber beneath the Sphinx. And then Zahi's like, "This is bullshit. There's nothing to it." This is one of the reasons why I think he goes, "I don't believe in radar. I've never found anything in radar." Like he thinks it's nonsense. But then after he participated in the shore expedition stuff, the ARE people, this secret dig that they worked on for a couple of years, he is quoted in the Egyptian press, and this is like 97, 98, they're saying like, "We've made a major discovery. There are definitely hidden tunnels and passages beneath the Giza Plateau that connect the Sphinx and the pyramids, and we haven't explored it yet. Like this will undoubtedly lead to unveiling of more secrets of the pyramid builders." And then there's been nothing since then.
Memory hold.
Then it just got, he's never said anything about it since, and there's been no public expeditions. I mean, and during this period, like when they tarped off the Sphinx, they put up a big scaffold around it, they covered it all from view, all under they said that they were preparing a stage for a one-night concert that they were going to have at the Sphinx for months, and there's trucks going in and out, there's all this work happening just to put up a stage for a concert. And then, before this concert's supposed to happen, they went, "Well, no, actually we've cancelled the concert. We're done." They took it all down, and that's when you had that wooden boardwalk that's all over the entire front of the Sphinx. You can't see any of the bedrock in front of the paws of the Sphinx. And that just appeared afterwards, so it's like, okay. They do this shit in plain sight. They've been doing it now at Giza. If you go to the Sphinx entrance at Nazlet El Samam, like there's a secondary entrance right in front of the Sphinx, you go in there, and for years now, they've had this 12-foot high or 15-foot high paneling in this big area, big circular area, and there's this work been going on in there. You can't see in there, you don't know what they're doing. And you ask them, the official story is, "Oh, we're putting in foundation for like a gondola system." They wanted a sort of gondola system, a ski lift kind of thing to take people up to the plateau. And sure enough, eventually that just gets cancelled as well. Like, "Oh, you know what, we're not going to do this." But they've been working there for like a couple of years. There's shit going on in there. I'm sure they're digging in there. They're doing something. I mean, even in the past, Yusuf will tell you stories about how because he lives in Nazlet El Samam, which is a village right in front of the Sphinx. He said at some point, because there's people in there that dig in their basements, they dig down to find shit. And he said at some point they got the shits with that happening, so they said, "Oh, okay, we need to put in new septic lines throughout this whole village." So they come in with excavators, they tore up all the streets, but how deep do you need to go for a septic line? They were digging like 25 feet down in all the streets, just ripping the whole thing up. "Oh, we're putting in septic lines." It's like, that's pretty deep for like
what the heck?
septic lines. Anyway, some of that shit's been going on forever. I'm pretty convinced that if there is something beneath the Sphinx, I'm sure there's cavities. Like, they got found on at least 2 or 3 different like scientific, then a whole bunch of different subsurface techniques, acoustic stuff, ground penetrating radar. They found it. They even tell you the size of it. It's like 40 feet by 25 feet. That's beneath this big chamber, and there's other tunnels leading off it. I'm convinced they've already been in there, and it's whatever's there's gone. We'll never know. But
the underneath at Saqqara, underneath the step pyramid, they kept taking out all those was it marble blocks or?
The alabaster, yeah. Yeah, you can cover on the lens.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, the white calcite. They took out like 70 tons of it.
What the heck was that? And then
it was
they
all cased
bulldozed
down there. I think the lower chambers down there are cased in that stuff, and it's all machined. Like you literally see it's machined. There's tube drills. It's all really well made. Like you see machine marks on a lot of these blocks, and we found a few of them because I've got pictures of it. I was there when they were renovating it, and there's big piles of this stone that they pulled up from like the southern shaft as well as what's below the step pyramid. Is like 70 tons of it, and then they just bulldozed it. And they made a huge big berm out of it with all this dirt. And at the edge of the berm, you go and dig around a bit, and you can find these big chunks of alabaster with like perfect tube drills and machine cuts and corners and these flat surfaces. Yeah, they bulldozed it.
Exactly.
Well, nowhere else to put it. I don't know. I don't know why they did it, but
the stuff that you filmed on the Giza plateau is still there, right?
Yeah, most. Yeah. Yeah, it's the stuff behind the step pyramid of Saqqara that they bulldoze. And you go down, so with the last couple of trips we've got down to the very bottom levels where they don't want you filming. It's like you go down 4 levels, and then there's a ladder, you go down like another 30 feet. And there's we found these giant big alabaster boxes that again have these 2 wheels of machine marks in them. They're beautiful.
What's that?
And there's big chambers down there, like way bigger than in the higher levels, like these big open chambers. And I think a lot of that casing stuff came from there. And there's even levels below that where they haven't excavated yet. We found the entrances to it. And there's ropes and shit going down even further, but they're still working down there. Still, they don't know how far it goes. They know that at least 5 or 6 miles of tunnels down there, but they haven't. They're still working down there. So we don't know, you know. Like this.
The Serapeum was open to the public.
Yeah. It was closed for like 15 years. Really? When they were renovating it, but putting the floor in and whatnot.
And they said there was cows inside of that?
That's the claim. They say they were boxes, burial boxes for the Apis bull. But there was no Apis bulls found in any of those. In fact, there's been nothing found in any of those boxes. Nothing. They were all open except for one.
One box is half open, right? Like
They're all open. They're all open. You can get into most all of them.
open. No, but there's one like where the upper part is just jarred.
Yeah. Lots of them are like that. There's some of them the lids is pushed off.
But
some
this
of
was
them are
not done
twisted.
by us. This was done.
We don't know who opened them. They were opened in antiquity at some point. There was one box that was sealed when Auguste Mariette went in there in like 1857, and he used gunpowder or dynamite and blew it open. Like he blew off the corner of it.
There's still nothing inside.
There's nothing inside. And that's probably, you go in that thing, it's fucking perfect. It's like a mirror finish. It's perfectly flat and square and straight. And
It didn't budge with the dynamite.
no, well he couldn't get the lid off. Like how else are you going to get the lid off? He blew it open. And then there was, and they didn't know. And after that, there was
That
like,
shows how advanced we were in 1850
yeah, well,
compared to them.
and like 50 years ago or so, they found an extension to the Serapeum, and they got into, there's a whole other room. There's like a giant big box that's literally tucked in a corner. There's this huge granodiorite box.
But you said
And
you
we're
can
probably
only
one of the
get it
biggest
out
ones.
if you considered building a hydraulic machine there, right?
You couldn't,
But-
yeah. So a
but
lot of people are
not
like,
even
oh,
then.
there's, well, so because Marriott found the remnants of pulleys, wooden pulleys. He found some pulleys, and it's like people think, well, these pulleys to get them in here. I'm like, there's no evidence that the dynastic Egyptians used pulleys. Like there's just they never anywhere. All the depictions of them moving stuff, they use levers, they use wooden sleds, and they just have dudes pulling ropes.
Or torches,
But you know,
right?
who did have pulleys was every other civilization after that. How else do you think they got the fucking lids off? They would have put big bars up. There's actually holes in the roof where you can see they probably put wood in there to brace, and then like ran a pulley system off that to then probably yank and move the lids off to then go looking for treasure. There's a nearby set of tunnels that aren't connected called the Lesser Galleries. They kind of run above it a bit, and they're these really small, sort of definitely more primitive tunnels. And in those, they found wooden boxes, and they had Apis bull mummies in these wooden boxes. So then they kind of take that and they spread that out.
Oh,
across
they
the whole
extrapolate.
Serapeum and say, oh, these big stone boxes were clearly
Yeah,
Apis
it
bulls.
looks like the later ones were just imitating that. With
Yeah,
primitive
that's exactly
technology.
right. I think.
But did any material scientist say consider? I mean, the Serapeum is it built or is it in the caves?
No, it's bedrock. There's no roof. It's tunnels.
So they would have had to drag it on
You
the
had to get the boxes in through the tunnels.
That's
if
the
you were to
weird
do
part.
the easy
But
way
could it
would
be
be
that
to
the
like
tunnels were
drop
built?
them in and build a roof.
Could it be that the tunnels were built later? No, right?
No, it's bedrock.
So it's not assembled, you're saying?
There's no roof to it. You dug the tunnels, and then
And there's the
they-
one at the entrance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's one still
halfway
in the
in.
hallway, I mean.
Yeah.
But also they have no idea how old these tunnels are, right?
They don't know.
You can't say that.
Yeah, they date it by the writing on the boxes. Like it's bullshit. And there's the
writing was
writing is
later.
the
Writings,
garbage.
yeah, it's bad.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Someone can write something.
And not only that, but then in one there's an empty Shenring, like an empty cartouche.
What is that?
The cartouche, the royal name. So you know, the royal names always have the cartouche around them, the circle and the little pedestal, and it's empty. It's empty. There's nothing inscribed in there. It tells you that the priesthood that probably ran that place was selling dedications. You pay enough money to the priesthood,
Oh,
they'll
I know.
chisel your name in there, and then 2,000 years later, we'll come along and say, oh, Ptolemy built this because his name's here. And that's all around the Serapeum. You see these little stele holes in the wall where they take little granite steles and they'd be carved and they'd stick them in these steles, and they all got taken and quarried and stuff.
But a material
That's what
scientist,
they
what would a material scientist say about the material? I mean, it's granite, right? The Serapeum?
It's different forms of granitic rock. Yeah, it's granite, diorite,
How
cyanide.
long could they survive in this kind of perfection?
Oh,
If the how long will this be?
a long time to do it. I mean, that's one of the big mysteries about that place. Is like There's not been any real, no Egyptologist-based studies, but all the engineers that have looked at it are scratching their heads at it, right? What's even stranger is it seems like they were finishing the boxes down there, like the ones in the hallway, and there's other boxes that are unfinished.
But what I also
So they would seem to be finishing them, which is how the.
but what I find remarkable is considering the perfection in these